Okay, so the objective again of today's lecture is we will be studying the concept of internet management, that is SNMP, and we will be understanding more about the role of agent and manager. So in the last lecture, if you remember, we had seen SNMP, SMI and MIB. These are the three aspects which are used for internet management. So continuing with this aspect, last lecture I had given you analogy. If I compare network management with computer programming, so in network management we have SMI, MIB and SNMP. So SMI, you can say it's nothing but the language or the syntax that I am using. MIB is nothing but when you are writing a program, we declare the object and we define certain objects. So that is your MIB. And what is your SNMP? The structure of the program or the coding. Okay, so that is your SNMP. So continuing with this, we have an example. So what is this example telling is the problem statement. A manager station SNMP client wants to send a message to an agent station, that is the SNMP server, to find the number of UDP user datagrams received by the agent. So this is the task that the manager wants to perform. So the management question is the number of UDP users or the datagram received. Okay. Number of UDP users datagram received by the agent. This is the question which has arisen at the manager end. So we say that it is a management question. So what happens? You can see the flow. I will just project one more slide. Okay, so this is the management question. So how SMI, MIB, SNMP say, how will I answer this question? Now we have the two components, that is the manager and the agent that is present. So I have this question. So this question is raised by the manager. So that is my step one. Then it goes to the internet management protocol. So this is my step number 2. Okay. Then what the step number 2 or 3 mein kya ho raha hai? Based on this question, the attributes are there. Then I have an based on that attributes or the questions, I have an ID. Okay. Now suppose this right now you don't know the tree diagram. In internet we have the UDP, we have TCP, we have UDP. So the object value or the object identity for an UDP, I will show you this how the tree diagram is going. 1.3.6.1 is my internet. Uske aage what we are doing is we are doing internet management. So internet also, there are many tasks in the internet. Are you configuring the internet or what, transferring the data in the internet? But right now we are concerned about management of internet. So uske liye 2. Then under 2 we have the UDP. UDP ke aage kya hai? Okay, so this is suppose the object identity of whatever the task we are supposed to follow. So once I get the message and all, the MIB will declare the object, uska value, and that question from the manager. Okay, the manager is seeking that answer. It's a packet ban jata hai. Okay, so it encapsulates the request. See, step 2, it is going to the management section, and while the data comes out of step 3, all these 3 things are being performed by this section. And what the manager, once the packet is ready, so the manager sends, means the SNMP packet is ready, the SNMP sends a get request message to the agent. Okay, so now the agent receives the get request. So that is my step number 4. Now the agent might have the data related to this query. So what the agent will do, he will send a response. So this is again an SNMP packet. So in response to get request, I get a response from the agent and it goes to the manager. So the manager can then store the data in its database based on whatever the query has been generated. So this is a very simple process which happens. The manager koi question aaya hai. Okay, so the question, when it goes to the agent, there are certain things which are to be used or followed. So that is SMI, MIB and SNMP will take care of this, and a packet is gets ready at the manager end. Then the request is sent to the agent and the agent gets a response and the manager can then store it in the database. So this is how your management of internet will work. So if I read each and every function, so the MIB is response. So this is the management question that goes. Now we will elaborate on this part. So MIB is responsible for finding the object that holds the number of UDP user datagrams received. Then what the SMI will do? The SMI, with the help of another embedded protocol, is responsible for encoding the name of the object. Then what is SNMP doing? So SNMP is responsible for creating a message called a GET request message, and it encapsulates the encoded message. Now, what is the last line saying is, of course, things are more complicated than this simple overview, but at least we get an idea कि क्या हो रहा है. ये इतना simple नहीं है. हाँ ठीक है, ये block में गया, MIB identify कर रहा है कौन सा object है. SMI will do the encoding, and then SNMP will create a packet, encapsulate, and then send it. So it looks simpler, but at least we can understand what is SMI, MIB, and SNMP doing. But actually at the internet end, what they are trying to say is things are more complex. So right now we are not bothering about it. So I hope it is clear. Now when I'm talking about an object, so what are the attributes of an object? Remember when we were doing OSI, there also we had studied managed object, unmanaged object, object के क्या attributes है, object with respect to internet perspective, with respect to OSI perspective. So again, similarly, we will see what are the attributes of an object. So now we are dealing with only objects which are involved in the internet management. So every object will have a name, there will be a type, and there is an encoding method. Okay, so if it is, there is a printer or a counter, so there has to be a name. Then what is the type? Okay, because why we need the type? If you remember, when we are doing the ASN1 coding, based on the type, that numbers change. Okay, so I should know the type and what encoding method. So we all know we are using the TLV encoding. So I'm not going to repeat this section. Only the decoding part I said I will be teaching when I am covering the encoding part. So the object has a name, type, and there is an encoding method for that particular object. Now, what is SMI? So the structure of management information is a component for network management. Now, what I had shown you in one line, what was SMI doing? Okay, so what are the three basic functions of SMI is to name the object, to define the type of data that can be stored in an object, and to show how to encode data for transmission over the network. So you can say SMI is like a guideline for SNMP. Now, all these slides are important from the viewpoint of an MCQ question. Okay, so what are the functions of SMI? So all these three, out of this three, any two might be there in one sentence, the other might change. Okay, so these are some hints which I am giving you, provided I also remember it during framing the question. Okay, so it emphasizes three attributes to handle, that is the object name, data type, and the encoding method. So this is some information about your SMI. Now, you are talking about the object. Okay, so and every object has an identifier. We are not seeing this diagram for the first time. We had seen in OSI also this diagram. I have a root node. The root node does not have any name. When I have these three sections, ISO, ITUT, and ISO, ITUT, and under ISO, we have organization, Department of Defense, and the internet comes over here. Okay, so 1.3.6.1 tak, my internet, if internet, we are not going to spell internet when we are coding. Okay, so the moment I say internet, the ASN1 coding will pick up 1.3.6.1. So internet is identified by this object identity. Now what we are doing under internet? We are doing under internet, we want to do internet management. That is what is my interest as of now. तो यहाँ पे देखो, अगर तुमने देखा कि हर एक में there are other things. but I am not interested in that. I am interested, पहले तो ISO में interest था, and then now since I'm doing internet management, I am interested in this part. So DOD के भी sub branches है, but I am not interested in that because the tree diagram, if you remember, if you see the last one, I remember there are 72 such levels, okay, and then uske tree. So it is not possible for any of us to remember ye 72 levels or uske tree. But since we are concerned with internet, this much we should be knowing. So internet tak to hum aa gaye the last chapter mein. Now we are doing internet mein internet management. So for internet management, MGMT is management. The identifier is 2, and the next level is MIB2, the management information base 2. Now why you will feel 2, 1 kidhar gaya? When this internet management was getting developed, the MIB was also getting developed. So initially it was version 1. They didn't call it actually version 1. And when SNMP version 1, version 2 develop hota gaya, suddenly the MIB also changed. Okay, so we don't have MIB version 1 anywhere. Directly we have MIB 2. So they named it MIB 2. So on records, we don't know what was there in MIB 1 and what is the change in MIB 2. So when I talk of SNMP or internet management, my object identifier is 1.3.6.1.2.1. इसके आगे भी if I am interested in doing more tasks, the object identifier will grow. So if somebody asks you the object identifier draw for internet, okay, for 2 marks question comes, or subjective question, what is internet management and all, so you can draw this tree diagram till this point. Okay, so we will see individually how MIB2 or OSUB hai, but this is the tree diagram. I had given this tree diagram in the MCQ question which was supposed to go from my side. So इसके साथ और 3 अलग-अलग wrong answers थे. But since we could not copy the image in the format which they had, because university that time had. Now when I talk about data, okay, because we are sending the data is again of 2 types. We have a simple data and we have a structured data. Okay, so simple data is book, page number, if you remember, and the structured data type is book name, module, page number, and something was there. 3 parts were there if you remember the ASN1 structure. So that is, the data is in a structured form. Like you might have DBIT branch, under branch you have EXTC IT computer MEC. Under MEC you have division A and B. So that way your data becomes a structured data. Okay, so accordingly my ASN1, that module changes, and some data might be a very simple data. I might write DBIT EXTC. Okay, so that data is of 2 types, simple and your structured data. Now, what is the encoding? See, these are the attributes of the objects which we are discussing. Okay, so then for an object, I need to know the encoding format. So the encoding format already you know, it is tag length value. Tag, again, there are 8-bit tag is there. So first is the class, then the format 1-bit, okay, primitive or constructive, that format is there, and then the number. So the same encoding format, we are not going into detail of this because we have already covered it and you have answered the question also in your IA1. So the same TLB encoding we are using for SNMP as well. Okay. So we finished with your SMI. Now comes to MIB. Okay, so the management information base, we are using version 2. It is the second component used in network management. The first component we discussed was SMI, and the second component is your MIB. And the third component will be SNMP, which we will study tomorrow. Okay, so the second component is your MIB version 2. So it is called as MIB2. So each agent has its own MIB2. Now, what is actually MIB2? So it is a collection of all the objects that the manager can manage. See, every manager will have some limitation. Okay, so like I can handle 10 objects, okay, 10 components. So MIB क्या कर रहा है? It is a collection of data of all those 100 components. So, and who is maintaining that MIB? The agent is maintaining its MIB. And what is MIB in simple words? It's a collection of all the objects that the manager can manage. Now, the objects in MIB2 are categorized in 10 different groups. In one of the book, one of the page, there it is mentioned 11 different groups. So no problem, at least 10 का नाम तुम लोगों को याद रखना है. Now, what is this 10 different groups? I'll just show this diagram again. यहाँ पे MIB2 तक आए हम लोग. MIB2 के बाद ये सिर्फ 2 लाइन नहीं है. There are 10 different things which your MIB2 can handle. Now, what is this 10 different things? Because the tree diagram यहाँ पे fit नहीं होगा. Okay, so what are those 10 different groups? We have under MIB2, we have system, we have interface, we have address translation group, we have IP group, ICMP, TCP, UDP, EGP, transmission group, and the SNMP. So these groups are under MIB2 object in the object identifier tree. And each group has some variables and tables. So we will see that table and the functions of each object later on in the lecture, but that is also asked in the exam. So यहाँ पे देखो that tree diagram जो मैंने यहाँ पे काट दिया था. So this was my MIB2. So MIB2 was 1.3.6.1.2.1. Under this MIB2, we have this 10 groups. Okay, so system groups, if group, at is address translation group, IP group, ICMP, TCP, UDP, EGP, transmission, SNMP. So, and these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 11, 12, these are the object identifier for these various groups. So in this way, the tree diagram goes on increasing. Might be TCP के आगे भी groups है, but उतना तुम लोगों को याद करने की जरूरत नहीं है, but at least these you should be remembering. Suppose MIB2 के ऊपर short note आ गया, then you have to start from this and the diagram which I will show you later, or a table which has like system मतलब क्या, if मतलब क्या, AT मतलब क्या. So the functions and all are explained in that particular table. Okay, so continuing with the introduction of your SNMP, so the history a little bit. So in 1970, the Advanced Research Project Agency Network started working to find out the internet management. Okay, so there was ARPANET which already was there and it was working with the ICMP, that is Internet Control Message Protocol. Then what this IETF, the Internet Engineering Task Force, this group was the pioneer in developing this internet management. Like your OSI management was headed, or you can say the lead was your ISO. Okay, so similarly, your internet management is, or you can say SNMP management was founded by Internet Engineering Task Force, IETF. So around 1990, we had the SNMP version 1, 95 immediately version 2 was there, and 98 version 3 is there. After 98 till date, we are at 2021, we don't have any more version, means this version is working well. So usually all internet management are performed using your SNMP version 3. Okay, so what is there in your IETF? You find documents of version 1, version 2, version 3, and some documents, internet documents are there, which is called as RFC. So full form is request for comments. Then you have FYI for your information. Then the internet standards, all these are mentioned or present in the IETF. So please remember from this slide who was or who developed internet management or SNMP. It is the IETF, that is Internet Engineering Task Force. So now we will go into the details. So your third aspect of internet management is your SNMP. Now, in SNMP, we have these 4 models, same way like your OSI, the names also remains the same. So we have SNMP organization model, information model, communication model, and functional model. So what is organization model? So this already you know, it is the relationship between the network elements, agent, and the manager. Okay, so and it's a hierarchical architecture. So we have object, we have agent, and then on top we have manager, or uske upar we have the manager of manager. Okay, so that was there in your OSI management. Now we will see what are these agent manager object remains the same, but how still the organization of an SNMP looks like. Okay, then we have the information model. So we are using the ASN1 syntax, SMI and MIB. So I have introduced you to this 2 topic. ASN1 already you know. So as such, no need to again go through the information model of SNMP because it's already been covered. Then in the communication model, how I am transferring the message, so the transfer syntax, how SNMP is transferred over TCP/IP, so that we are saying, we will be seeing when the communication services addressed by these messages. So here in different versions, we will see concept messages. If you remember mget, mset, m request, okay, m response, okay, those messages were there in your OSI. So here also SNMP will also have similar messages, and different versions will have different messages. Then security framework community based model. This is, I want to highlight this point. Usually either students don't remember or don't care because कहीं पे बुक में डायरेक्टली वो प्रिस्क्राइब नहीं है, नोट्स में भी नहीं है. It is told only during the lectures, and which either you don't listen or you don't mark it. See, when we were discussing the OSI communication model, क्या किया था हमने? एक एजेंट था और एक मैनेजर था. Request, response, or alarm. Okay, so this way agent and manager was communicating. Nowhere, if you see in those 7 messages, we have talked about security. Okay, the manager is not verifying कि हाँ agent से मुझे alarm आया है, या agent is not verifying कि हाँ right, there might be many managers. Okay, so whether the right manager has asked me that particular question or asked for that data, so nowhere we had dealt with security in your OSI. Okay, now when we are talking of SNMP in the communication model, there is a security framework present. Now, how security is present in your SNMP is through a community-based model. Please remember it, write it, whatever it. Right now, the lectures are getting recorded. So, if you listen to this, it will be there only in this recorded session. Okay, so in SNMP, we look into the aspect of security and also how it is based on the community-based model. Right now, I am taking the lecture, for example, in your class. I don't want any IT or mechanical student to enter the class. So what I can do in the Zoom session is I can I can enable the waiting room. Okay, so I want only one community of EXTCB, EXTC student. Okay, so this Zoom has taken care of this. I have enabled waiting room. So if I want, I see your name, roll number, and if I want, then only I will allow you to enter this session. Otherwise, you are not allowed. Okay, so all of us are aware of this. Okay, there is a waiting room. So why? How is that waiting room made on community-based model? Either in last semester, what you used to do, Frida ma'am used to send the link, you used to register. Okay, so when you are registering means you come to the same community. So same way in SNMP, when I am communicating, there is a security involved based on community-based model. See, बहुत सारे मैनेजर्स रहेंगे यहाँ पे. वहाँ पे क्या था, एक एजेंट एक मैनेजर कम्युनिकेट कर रहा था. Here what it will be in this, when we will see the organization model, there might be one agent but multiple managers handling different tasks. So suppose one, and see at that end, manager is not only a machine, some person is handling that. Okay, so suppose मेरा वो field नहीं है, but I am not a good person and I want data of that. So मैं एजेंट को अगर वो डेटा मांगा, एजेंट ने अगर कुछ देखा नहीं और डेटा मुझे दे दिया, I might misuse the data. Okay, so what I need to incorporate is a security. So there has to be a community. An agent और manager को हम एक community में ही रखेंगे. If they belong to the same community, then only the manager and agent can communicate with each other. Okay, if you are in Mumbai zone and you cannot send data to the Pune zone. Okay, so that way we are making a community. And one thing I will be saying throughout, since the security is coming, a question that comes is a comparison of SNMP version 1, 2 and 3. Okay, you people have the habit of making a table, parameter लिखते हो, good, better, best, high, low, ऐसा कुछ तो लिखते हो. Security, everybody writes. Till date I did not, because I did not get a DBIT paper to check subjective paper because it was all online. Everybody writes that in SNMP version 1 security is absent, version 2 security is absent, version 3 it is present. They write it that way. वही एक आंसर के लिए उनका पूरा मार्क्स चला जाता है. Remember, security is there in all versions of SNMP. कुछ पढ़ाने से पहले ही I am emphasizing on this point so that this you remember it. How? Because SNMP का पूरा चीज ही community through है. Okay, so that community is present from the beginning only. So by default, security is there. Version 3 has totally different aspects of security which we use nowadays. Encryption, decryption, cryptography and everything. So that doesn't mean that version 1 or 2 में security नहीं है. It is there. Okay, so please remember, if by chance you get a question comparison of, पहले तो एक table बनाओ ही नहीं. The moment I see the table, I get irritated. क्या good, better, best? What is good? Good is 100 or 0.1 or 10 raised to minus 3. There is no value. If you write in paragraph form, the examiner or the paper checker tends to read those paragraphs. Okay, वो टेबल बनाओगे तो तुम लोग स्कोप दे देते हो कि हाँ देखो मैंने गलत लिखा है, देखो यहाँ पे देखो, एंड जल्दी जल्दी वो टेबल ज्यादा हाईलाइट होता है. So write the comparison, especially in case of 1, 2, 3 in paragraph form. And if you have time, you can draw the architecture also of version 1, 2, 3. इतना easy नहीं है, but still if you have time in the end, you draw the architecture because the architecture is quite big compared to your OSI. So, but still students draw that. So please remember, in communication model, whenever the agent and manager is communicating, there is an aspect of security present. Then we come to the functional model of SNMP. So FCAPs, all of us are now aware of FCAPs. So these 5 functions are there: fault management, performance, configuration, accounting, security. See, these aspects, FCAPs, has to be there in all management. ये OSI ने दिया था. OSI had only these 5. So others should have this 5 and then the remaining one based on उन्होंने क्या higher version use किया है. I hope this is clear all of you because you are aware of these 4 models. I should hear and yes. Any doubt till this point? Yes or no? Shall I go ahead? At least उसके लिए तो yes बोलो.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
One girl has to say. Prasad?
Yes, ma'am.
Understood?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So let us go ahead. Okay, now we will start with the first model, that is your organization model. So what is there in your OSI organization model? We have one manager, one agent model. Then the second model is your multiple manager, one agent model. So this is my two-tier model. Okay, so here you can see they have drawn it in a simpler way compared to your OSI. So here I have the network elements, means my object is there. Then we have the SNMP agent, and then we have the manager. Now, so here I have one agent, one manager. Now here you can see the network remains the same. I have the network agent who is handling those network elements, but I can have multiple manager, more than one manager. Okay, so now can you tell me why I require multiple manager? Any idea? Any example? Can you give me why I require multiple managers? Yes? Anyone? The network remains the same, components remains the same. One agent who is handling.
More than one departments.
Yes, who was that?
Ma'am Bhushan.
Okay, yes, more than one department. So one might be handling the logistic, one might be handling the performance, one manager might handle the account section, auditing, reporting. Okay, so more than one section I might handle. Okay, so one manager is interested to handle that particular section. So that's why we have multiple managers. Okay, so both the manager and the agents here, they are the software modules. The agent responds to any management system that communicates with it using the SNMP. The multiple managers can interact with one agent and shown in figure. Okay, so in a two-tier model, the network manager, what it does is it receives the raw data from the agent and processes it. Okay, agent just collects the data, and when the manager wants that data, he gives that raw data. Okay, so क्या हो जाता है कि the task on the manager increases because he has to take that raw data and he has to process them in one particular format. Remember the log management tools which we had seen, that default log management will give me raw data, okay, but I need some meaningful data out of it. Okay, so that is also why we require a log tool. So it is sometimes beneficial for the network manager to obtain the pre-processed data. For example, we may want to look at the traffic statistics, such an input and output packets per second at an interface on a node as a function of time. So suppose मुझे ये data चाहिए. So if I get full raw data, it becomes difficult for the manager to draw an inference. Okay, so it's beneficial to have a pre-processed data. Now, how will I do that pre-processed data? ये जो है यहाँ पे तो ऐसा कुछ scope नहीं दिख रहा है. I have an agent who has the raw data and then the manager who takes that raw data. So the burden on the manager increases. So two-tier model has this particular disadvantage. So for that, what we do is, I have, suppose this is the SNMP manager and this is the managed object. Managed object के अंदर ही agent है. Okay, so agent का अलग से नहीं दिखाया है. So we have an Armon probe. Okay, so what we are trying to do is, instead of the network manager continuously monitoring event and calculating the information, for example, the data rate, what we do is we introduce a probe called as the remote monitoring probe, and it is introduced between the object and the manager. So this way, the architecture, it becomes a three-tier organization model. See, we have one tier, two tier, sorry, three tier in OSI also, in internet management also. But here, little bit, it is different. Okay, the explanation is different. So if SNMP organization model आया, तो वापस से वही मत सुनाना. Okay, so when you finish with the explanation of two-tier model, definitely explain that the manager is receiving the raw data, he has to process them. So it is always an advantage to get a pre-processed data. So how to get that pre-processed data? So my three-tier model will help in getting that. So I introduce a Harmon probe that is an intermediate agent is there present who will process the data and he will send it to the manager. और यहाँ पे देखो bi-directional दिया हुआ है. Okay, so the manager might ask, okay, give me data in this particular form, and the RMON will ask for that data. So SNMP is directly connected with the agent. Also, it is directly connected with the RMON probe. So this is my 3-tier organization model. Now, the next model is called as the proxy server organization model. Okay, so this also comes for an 2 marks question. What is the proxy server organization model? So here you see we have the SNMP manager. यहाँ पे कहीं पे agent नहीं है, but the agent is present here. So here what we are having is SNMP managed object and non-SNMP managed object. Remember in OSI also we have managed object and unmanaged object. Here since we are not writing unmanaged object, or managed object maybe we are specifying it is SNMP managed object. We are doing SNMP management. So I want all the objects to be SNMP. The management process should be present in that object. But there are devices in the network which does not have an SNMP management process running in them. So for those devices, what we call them as non-SNMP managed object. So if in my network I have both SNMP and non-SNMP managed object, so what will the SNMP manager do in that way? SNMP managed object can directly send the data which the SNMP manager will understand because दोनों SNMP management process दोनों में है. Now, for the non-SNMP managed object, what we will do is that data, whatever the form of data is present, it goes to a proxy server, and this proxy server will format this data or make it into an SNMP compatible format, and then he gives it to the SNMP manager. I hope you understood this part. Okay, so in this organization model, a proxy server is there. So what is the concept of a proxy server organization model is non-SNMP managed object can also be present in the network. So the proxy server will convert the non-SNMP managed data into an SNMP enabled format, and he will send it to the SNMP manager. It is not only the case कि मेरे पास सिर्फ SNMP managed object नहीं है. Suppose जो current SNMP है ये version 2 है और ये वाले जो object है ये version 1 है. ये manager है वो version 2 का manager है. In that case also I can say non-SNMP managed object. In that case ये version 1 का object है, ये version 2 का object है. Okay, so this might be version 2, this might be version 2, the manager is version 2, this might be version 1. In that case also it is, I might say it is non-SNMP managed object. So again what this proxy server will do, it will convert this version 1 to version 2, all the packets or the data or the messages which are there in version 2, ये version 2 1 वाला है, it will convert into version 2, and then that version 2, because this manager can understand only version 3. So we will deal with the topic again, how to convert from version 1 to version 2. But since we already have this proxy server, so this is one way in which I can convert one version of SNMP into the another version. So a proxy server helps in doing this task. Now please remember proxy server, if the question is asked many times, the students feel main server down हो गया है, so there is a backup. जैसे proxy teacher होता है class में, one teacher is absent and then the other teacher just comes and takes the proxy. So please don't explain that proxy server. Here the proxy server is for version conversion. Okay, so I have the data in one particular version and the manager wants data in another version. So the proxy server is doing that conversion of data. I hope you understood till this point. So pure SNMP management system consists of SNMP agent and SNMP manager. An SNMP manager can manage a network element which does not have an SNMP agent. Now, where this situation is there, I will explain in the next class. Okay, see, I might have a wireless system, a wired system together present, and I'm trying to handle that system. Okay, so wireless system might be it is SNMP enabled, non-wireless system. Yes, suppose fiber optics I am using, it might not be having SNMP. So in that case, I require a proxy server model. So that is what is explained. So here, this is not so important, but it is there in the book. So NMS behaves as a manager as well as an agent. So I have the agent, I have another SNMP agent. So here should be my manager. Okay, so this manager can act as an agent as well. So that is what, so it is the dual behavior of the SNMP manager. Okay, so sometimes it plays the role of a manager, sometimes it plays the role of an agent. So with this, I will end today's lecture.